Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you ready to go?
Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the State and Local Government Committee. This morning we have three public hearings on bills, followed by 2 work sessions on bills. So we'll get underway. We looked around and we do have a quorum, so I'll ask folks to introduce themselves, and I will start with Senator Rosen. Please, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Kimberly Rosen, Senate District 8. I have 16 towns in Hancock and Penobscot County, from Castine up to Lincoln, including the city of Brewer.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Senator Claxton, please. You could introduce
Thank you, Madam
yourself.
Chair. I'm Ned Claxton. I have the honor of representing the folks in Senate District 20, which consists of Auburn, where I live, Minot, Mechanic Falls, Poland, and New Gloucester.
Thank you. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Chair Mellock. I'm Mark Bryant, I represent House District 24, part of the town of Wyndham. Welcome all.
Thank you. Representative Copeland.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. My name is Lynn Copeland, and I represent the House District 14, which is currently coastal and downtown Saco. And welcome, everyone.
Thank you. Representative Downs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Downs. I represent District 130, which is Bucksport and Orrington. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And a note from Cheryl, if you are in the Capitol today, if you could let her know, please. Representative Greenwood.
Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Randy Greenwood. I represent House District 82, which are the towns of Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
Thank you, sir. Representative Head. Oh, you just muted yourself again.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. My name is Frances Head. I live in Bethel, Maine. I represent District 117, parts of Oxford and Franklin counties. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Good morning.
Toughness of
No worries. Representative Paulus.
Hello, I'm Representative Sean Paulus. I represent House District 52, which is all the city of Bath.
Thank you, sir. Representative Reisman.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. My name is Walter Reisman. I live in Harrison, Maine, and proudly represent District 69, which are located in 2 counties in the towns of Harrison, Bridgeton, and Denmark.
Thank you. And Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Will Toole. I represent the Machias area plus Lubec and Eastport. It's great to be with everyone today from the State House.
And you're from the State House. All right, terrific. We also have with us our committee clerk, Cheryl McGowan, and our legal analyst, Lynn Caswell. So this morning we're going to have 3 bills. These are 3 technical bills. So we will get started with those bills. LD, we'll go in numerical order. LD 1795, an act to update statutory references to building code standards for public improvements, presented by Representative Bryant. Good morning, sir. Yep.
Good morning. Sorry for the delay. I am Representative Mark Bryant. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Matt Lark, and esteemed members of the State and Local Committee. I'm Representative Mark Bryant of District 24, which includes part of the town of Wyndham. I'm here today to present LD 1795, an act to update the references to building code standards for public improvements. As the title indicates, the bill seeks to make necessary updates to the statute concerning references to the building code standards for public improvements. The overarching goal of this legislation is to ensure that the safety and structure standards of our public buildings reflect the most up-to-date information and guidance from the relevant authorities. You have my testimony. I'll just go down to the bottom a little bit and let the authorities with more understanding of this present it. But the bill was first the Department of Administration and Services staffs discovered this housekeeping matter this past summer when the Bureau of General Services was looking to update their rules. It determined that we need to address the underlying statute before moving forward with rulemaking. With that, I'll let more knowledgeable on this issue continue. I'm happy to answer any questions, but would recommend you save them for the following speakers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Bryant. Any questions for Representative Bryant? There being none, I understand we have somebody from DAFS to speak with us. Cheryl? Good morning, Ms. Trundy. Welcome to State and Local Government.
Good morning.
You are here to explain to us about LD 1795. Terrific.
Yes. Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlack, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. My name is Anya Trundy. I am the Chief of Legislative Affairs and Strategic Operations for the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. And I come before you this morning to offer testimony in support of LD 1795, an act to update statutory references to building codes standards for public improvements. LD 1795 is a bill initiated by the department as a matter of housekeeping. Primarily, this bill eliminates references to the outdated building codes found in Title V, Section 1742, that apply to public improvements and have been superseded by the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code, also known as MUBEC. The MUBEC was first implemented in 2007 and is made up of the International Building Code, the International Existing Building Code, the International Residential Building Code, the International Energy Conservation Code, and the International Mechanical Code. The American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, also known as ASHRAE standards, have been adopted as part of the MUBEC as well. Indeed, the Bureau of General Services has been adhering to the MUBEC for public improvement projects as it is the industry standard. And as of 2020, the MUBEC automatically applies statewide. It must be enforced in municipalities with a population of 4,000 or greater. These outdated statutory references were discovered this past summer when the Bureau of General Services was preparing for rulemaking to update Chapter 2, BOCA Basic Building Code 1987, Chapter 3, Life Cycle Analysis, Chapter 4, Standard 62 1981R, Ventilation for Acceptable Indoor Air Quality Adoption, and Chapter 60, Improvements of Energy Efficiency in State-Funded Construction. All of these rules predate the MUBEC. The statutory updates proposed in this bill will enable rulemaking to proceed and BGS rules to be brought into alignment with MUBEC. Thank you for allowing me to testify before you today, and I'm happy to respond to any questions. And as always, I'll be available for questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trundy. Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I do have a couple of questions. Probably the first one would be, so communities that don't have to use MUBEC, what happens if these references are removed? What happens in that situation? I guess would be my first question.
So currently, my understanding is that MUBEC applies to all communities, but it's only communities that have a population in excess of 4,000 that are obligated to enforce MUBEC. So it defaults to MUBEC applying. And I think a lot of municipalities do adopt it.
And I know a lot of smaller municipalities coming from one that don't, but be that as it may, if indeed it does apply to everyone, and that answers that. I guess my other question would be, have you gotten much feedback from the business community, code enforcement folks, that sort of thing when you put this forward? Was there a consensus that this is something new, or is it this is just a cleanup, or from folks you've heard?
We haven't heard anything from those folks, and I think that that's because this is really just a cleanup, and it really applies to Title V, which is the statute that applies to public improvements and state construction. So I don't think it makes for a lot of change within the industry, because they're already adhering to it because it is the law in terms of building codes and standards otherwise.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Trundy. Are there any further questions for Ms. Trundy? There being none, do we have any further testimony on this bill, Cheryl? No? Okay, thank you very much. There being no further testimony, I will close the public hearing on LD 1795. Are we interested in moving straight away into a work session on this bill? It seems to be just a clear-cut clarification and update. Is there any objection to doing that, Representative Toole?
I would rather give it, I know it's on the schedule for Wednesday. I haven't, admittedly, I haven't dug too deeply into it. I would like a couple of days just to dig into it. I mean, it sounds like it's fine, but I wouldn't mind having a couple of extra days to dig into it, so.
Okie doke. So we will leave it here for now, Ms. Trundy, and on Wednesday, we'll take up the scheduled work session. Thank you.
Sounds good. I'll see you then.
Thank you very much. The next public hearing will be on LD 1936, an act to codify the Senate and House legislative districts, the congressional districts, and the county commissioner districts as enacted by the legislature. I believe this is Representative Dunphy's bill. Do we have Representative Dunphy with us this morning?
We do not.
We do not.
We have Julie Flynn.
Perfect. Miss, if you could bring over Ms. Flynn, she can explain to us about this bill. That'd be great.
Okay. She's on her way. Well, she's supposed to be on her way. There she comes.
Good morning, Ms. Flynn, and welcome to State and Local Government. We're talking about LD 1936. If you could introduce yourself to us and then provide us with testimony on this bill, that would be great.
Good morning, Representative Matlack and members of the committee, Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I'm Julie Flynn, Deputy Secretary of State for the Bureau of Corporations, Elections and Commissions, and I'm a resident of Windham. I'm providing testimony in favor of LD 1936, and while also providing suggested amendment to the codified districts to match the intent of the Apportionment Commission and the legislature. So Title 21A, Section 1207 requires the Secretary of State to implement the election districts established through the apportionment process, to inform municipal clerks of the voting district or districts in which each municipality lies, and provide copies of the law and the district maps and geographic descriptions to those officials. We were very glad to see the hard work that the legislature put into adopting the new districts expeditiously last fall. It gave us the time we needed to have the new districts applied to the central voter registration system by the new year. During our review of apportionment, the law that you enacted in the legislature and signed by the governor on September 29th, 2021, as we were working on applying the districts to the central voter registration system, we found a very small number of what I would think call scrivener's errors. which we believe should be corrected to this codification of the districts in order to match up the intended districts to the law. The main GIS folks provided a map for us that had the different layers, House, Senate, County Commissioner, and congressional districts. And we were able to look at that and to look at where the district lines fell for each municipality. And the map shows, like, let's say I'm looking at Senate District 1, it would show that Senate District all in the same color, and then the districts nearby would be in a different color so that you can clearly see where the line is on the map. And on occasion, we found a couple of areas where there would be one census block in a different color in the middle of the district that we were looking at. And so we looked further and discovered that the original law that was passed had this 15-digit census block code assigned to what we thought was the wrong district. And so, I mean, given the size of reapportionment and how many tens of thousands of census blocks there are in Maine, it's amazing that there were so few to be fixed. But on page 2 of my testimony, I've listed those areas. For the state Senate, we found 2 issues, one in Yarmouth. I've listed the 15-digit GOID, and that is shown on page 5 of the bill, line 34. It's the last number on that line. It's a block that's on the border between Cumberland, which is in Senate District 25, and Yarmouth, the part that's in Senate District 23. But it was being listed as being in Senate District 25, even though it's right in the midst of the rest of Senate District 23 in Yarmouth. So we believe that has to just be taken out of the description for Senate 25 and added to the description of Senate 23. The second Senate district issue we wanted to bring to your attention are all of the census blocks that are on Long Island itself, and all the roads and streets are all within Senate District 25. They're properly showing up on the map that way. However, there were 6 census blocks listed as being part of Long Island, but in Senate District 28. And so that in the law was shown as being a split district. But actually, these 6 blocks are all in the ocean waters, sort of to the south and east of Long Island. And of course, they're water districts with maybe a little tiny bit of land that might stick up above the water. And there are no population, they're not habitable. So we've listed the census blocks, and those are listed on page 9, lines 14 and 15 of the bill. For the House of Representatives, there were only issues in 2 towns. In Orono, there's a block that's listed as being in House 25, but we believe it should be in House 24. That's shown on page 21, line 1 of the bill. And then in Windham, there are 2 blocks listed as being in House District 107, but they actually belong in House District 106. And those 2 blocks are listed in my testimony on page 51, line 22. Attached to my testimony is a proposed amendment to actually show the changes that we believe should be made to the bill. Because the bill is all underlined text, when we were adding the block, it's underlined like the rest of the text. There's no way to show it, so I highlighted in yellow. And then also where we're striking out the district that needs the block that needs to be moved, I've also highlighted that in yellow so that it would stand out from the rest of the text. And then attached after the testimony are several pages, which is the scanned maps that we used in order to show where these blocks fall on the map, just to give you an idea of where they are. So, as I said, a very, very tiny number of technical changes that I think need to be made, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Flynn. Representative Tool.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Flynn, for going over this. I know several weeks ago when this bill first appeared as being referenced here, there were a lot of people asking, why are we doing this again? We did this last September. I guess the first thing, for the public's benefit would be to walk through the rationale of why we do need to codify these. And the second would be a more technical question as to if by changing several of these districts, is that going to put a hiccup in the current election cycle with candidates out there collecting signatures and stuff like that? I mean, it's kind of gets back to what I was talking about last week to some extent with Saginaw County, but I mean, are there going to be any hiccups by changing these around, or are they going to change the balance of the district, so to speak?
Well, to answer the first question, or to for the benefit of the public, the apportionment plan that the legislature passed and the governor signed was that it was a plan in unallocated law, and it is the basis on which we implemented the districts into our central voter registration database, so that all the voters are attached to a street that have the correct districts on it, so that when the clerks are running the elections or they're certifying petitions this year, they're able to do that correctly with the districts that people are running for. But it is not in the law unless you pass 1936. This is what actually, codifies it into statute. And if people look in the law now, you'll see that the districts that were apportioned in 20 to start to apply to 2014 to the present are in the statute by virtue of a bill similar to this. So that's the rationale for doing the bill. And I would say these very minor errors are something that aren't going to affect where people were running. To the extent, I mean, the Long Island is the more significant one, but there's no streets there, there's no voters there. It's simply that sometimes the GIS maps attach the water surrounding an island to the nearby island, and actually there's no need to put them in apportionment because there's nobody who could ever live there. There's one little speck of land that does stick up above the water in one of the districts. It's called Junk of Pork. My husband's a former merchant mariner, used to run Casco Bay Line's boats 30 or more years ago, and said you can't even really barely land a boat on it to get somebody to stand on it, much less to have anyone live there. So it's just, I think, an oversight. And then the other ones are just, I think, a fact of when the apportionment plan was created. These are 15-digit GOIDs that start with the same. The first two numbers are the state of Maine, 23. The next three numbers are the county, and then there's a tract number. It's a 6-digit number, and then there's a four-digit block number. And so it's very easy to make a mistake. And you can see in the amendment that these numbers, where we're moving them, are in sequence. So they would be with the area surrounding them, but they're very small. And it's just really to make just what I would call a technical correction to this.
Thanks. That clears up a lot. I guess one other small thing that I had was, so every island, regardless of whether there's people that live on it, has to be assigned to a district of some kind, whether it be at the county level or the state level or whatever. Is that the case? I ask because we're dealing with other legislation later this month that I would think we could have a similar scenario pop up.
I think there are some islands that are named in the apportionment plan and that are covered by this redistricting law because they either have had or could have someone live on them. There are others that are, uninhabitable, and so they probably are not necessarily included here. But I think it's just the way the labeling was on, I think how it happened is the GIS software labeled these adjacent water blocks. Just like sometimes you find these blocks with zero population under the overpasses or interchanges of the state highways or the interstate highways. And so there's not going to be any building done there. People aren't going to be living there unless they're non-traditional homeless voters. But, they're not showing any population, so they don't have to be included. These water districts don't have to be included with the neighboring island. They don't add anything. They don't add any population.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else with questions for Ms. Flynn? There being none, thank you very much for being with us. Is there somebody else that will be testifying, Cheryl?
No.
There, nobody else for, nobody else against, nobody else neither for nor against?
Nope.
Thank you. Then I believe we can close this public hearing at this point. We will be holding a work session on this bill on Wednesday. Thank you very much. The third public hearing we have today is on LD 1947, an act to promote electronic filing of state agency and legislative committees publications. I understand that we have the state librarian here to talk with us about this, but do we have anybody testifying or presenting the bill to us this morning?
I don't know who. I'm sorry.
No.
I don't see that we do. No.
Okay. This is, let me see.
Would you like Mr. Ritter to come over?
Yes, please. If you could do that. 1, 2, 3. Status. So for this bill, yes, if we could get Mr. Ritter to come over. It's me. I'm the one that's presenting this bill this morning, so my apologies. My apologies. This bill is it reduces the number of paper copies a state agency or legislative committee must provide to the state librarian when the agency or legislative committee publishes a report or other publication. It requires the state librarian to maintain an online repository for permanent digital access to government documents. The committee has not taken a position on the substance of this bill. By reporting this bill out, the committee is not suggesting and does not intend to suggest that agrees or disagrees with any aspect of this bill. The committee is reporting this bill out for the sole purpose of having a full bill printed that can be referred to the committee for an appropriate public hearing and subsequent processing in the normal course. The committee is taking this action to ensure clarity and transparency in the legislative review of the proposal contained in the bill. We had this recommendation from the Secretary of State's office and the state librarian following a report from the state librarian regarding the number of paper copies that should be retained, the cost of printing paper copies and so forth. And so I will let Mr. Ritter explain this further. And if anybody has any questions, I'm sure he will be the best person to answer them. Mr. Ritter, thank you for coming to us this morning.
Thank you very much. And good morning, Representative Matlock and Senator Baldacci and all the members of this committee. My name is Jamie Ritter. I'm the state librarian. And I think, Representative, you articulated well really why we're here. the resolve that was done in the report back from the state archives and the state library regarding print publications and subsequent electronic publications resulted in this piece of legislation before you. And it really is, I don't know the right term to use, but we'll call it a cleanup bill. There were inconsistencies in a couple of different areas of Title V and Title 27 that spoke to the number of paper copies the state library should receive. So that was cleaned up and made consistent. And then additionally, we put in language that that specifies how electronic copies are to be received into our repository. And that electronic copy language really wasn't in statute prior. So the bill really just modernizes where we're at. There's no additional workload for the Maine State Library. There's no fiscal impact in terms of new costs associated. It really is doing business, frankly, the way we've been doing it since 2013, I would say, when we started our digital repository. So again, this bill, and I'll stop talking in a moment here, but this bill just cleans up the inconsistencies regarding numbers of copies that were coming to us, and then specifies how we will take on the role of putting documents into our electronic digital repository. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Do we have any questions for the state librarian? There being none, we have no further testimony on this bill, neither for nor against, neither for nor against. Representative Toole.
Yeah, if there being no other testimony, I'd be willing to go directly into work session on this if other folks are comfortable with it.
I think I would be. Let's see. We need to close our public hearing. Do we need to vote to close that, or just declare that we're closed, and they will go into work session? And I'd need a motion with regard to this bill.
So moved.
And a second, thank you very much. So we have a motion and second on LD 1947 that clarifies the way that the state library is functioning already, and cleans up some language in statute. There being no further, is there any further comment with regard to this bill? There being none, Cheryl, if you could call the roll, please.
Yes, I have Representative Toole making a motion to ought to pass. Is that correct?
That is correct, and Senator Baldacci seconded it.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. 1947 ought to pass. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus. Oh, he disappeared. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head. You're on.
Okay, yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. $11 yes and 1 absent. Actually, yeah, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ritter, for coming by and talking with us about this bill and clarifying it for us.
My pleasure. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Well, now that Senator Baldacci is here, I will turn it back over to him. And we have two work sessions this morning, two further work sessions on LD 859 and LD 1513. Good morning, Senator Baldacci.
Morning. Thank you, Representative Matlack. My name is Joe Baldacci. I represent the city of Bangor and the town of Herman in Senate District 9. And we are going into a work session on two bills, LD 859 and LD 1513. So the purpose of this meeting is for the committee to receive information from staff and others in order for members to consider the legislative proposals before us and to make recommendations or reports to the legislature. Only committee members, the committee analysts, and those specifically invited to attend will be participating in the work session using Zoom. For members of the public wishing to observe this meeting, it is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel and will also be recorded for viewing after this meeting is concluded. We are also broadcasting the audio of this meeting on the legislature's website. This is a public meeting, and I must remind you that while we are meeting, discussion must happen on the screen and not by way of Zoom chat. You may use the chat to request to speak or to indicate that you are having a technical issue or to indicate that you are momentarily stepping away from the screen. However, again, you are not to use the chat feature for substantive discussions. Materials will be provided electronically for this meeting, either through screen share, email, or posted on the committee's website. Members will speak with leave of the chair. When it's time for the committee to vote, we must have a quorum present, at least 7 members, including a senator. In order to be counted as present, your identity must be visually identifiable. So now we'll open the work session on LD 859, an act to allow municipalities to use ranked choice voting in municipal elections. Lynn, do you want to start us off?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the sponsor of this bill, Representative Berry, is here. I'm going to share my screen and show you the amendment that Representative Berry is proposing you consider with respect to this bill. It was a concept draft. So the sponsor's amendment is to change the title, an act to give municipalities more options in municipal elections. It permits municipalities to adopt what's called a different method than the plurality standard. So currently in statute for secret ballots, a plurality is the default unless it's a charter community and they can adopt a different standard. So this would be permitting municipalities to adopt a different method. And it also permits municipalities to adopt a different method with respect to tie votes. So that is what the sponsor proposed. The public hearing for this was some time ago, and but so let me provide a little bit of background information. There were some questions at the public hearing a while ago about ranked choice voting and whether ranked choice voting is permitted in municipal elections. I did some research, and as you all know, ranked choice voting was
I don't mean to interrupt, Lynn, but I think this, I don't know, my screen share looks odd.
Is it in blue?
It's black, except there's a white line going through the center of it.
Well, right. Yeah, oh, is that better?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me take it down. I don't know what's going on here. Let's see.
There we go.
Okay, we'll go back to just us.
Okay, that's.
Thank you for letting me know, because I know it can be quite annoying. So back in 2017, the Maine Supreme Judicial Court did offer an opinion on ranked choice voting. So this bill is not just ranked choice voting, but I'm going to just provide a little bit of information on that. What the Supreme Judicial Court said was that Maine's Constitution requires plurality, with respect to US congressional representatives, the governor, and the state legislative representatives. Therefore, ranked choice voting could not be used for the election of those individuals, but the ranked choice voting could be used in primaries, and that on the state and the federal level. And that is the current law. The Constitution says nothing about municipal elections. And because the Constitution is silent, that means that the legislature can enact ranked choice voting or a different method of voting, as I think the sponsor will probably be able to share more information on that. So the Constitution does not prevent the legislature from approving ranked choice voting for municipal elections. What I will mention, and I will defer to the sponsor to talk about what different methods mean. So this is not a bill that says municipalities may adopt ranked choice. It's municipalities may adopt different methods. And there's a few, and I sent you material on it. Before I go back to that, though, I want to mention that Title 30A has 3 sections in it that talk about plurality voting being a requirement. There's the section that the sponsor is amending, which is section 2528 on secret ballots. But there's 2 other sections. There's 2526 and 2555 that mention plurality voting. If the committee wants to move forward with amending the statute to allow for ranked choice or other methods, I would like to, I do not understand why there's 3 different sections. I'm not sure if 2 of them are supposed to be just for charter commissions. I've talked to other attorneys here. We're not sure. We would be interested in having MMA share how they interpret these 3 different sections. Because if they all apply generally to municipal elections, then you would want to amend all 3 of them. The alternative interpretation is the one that Representative Berry is amending applies generally, and the other 2 just apply to charter commission communities. So that I think would need further, I would recommend you give me time to do a little bit further research to come back to you and say whether or not you need to amend 3 or just 1. So that's kind of a technical issue. And then the other matter is what is meant by the phrase different methods for elections. And as I said, I sent you something that talks about alternative voting systems. There's ranked choice, there's approval voting, and there was proportional representation. I am not necessarily the best person to describe the difference among them, and I'm hoping the sponsor is. I would just caution that the phrase different methods, I'm not sure what you're opening it up to. If you enact a law that says municipalities may adopt different methods. I mean, I am somewhat of a pessimist, so does that mean they can adopt minority vote? I know that's not the intent, but you may want to think about clarifying that phrase, different methods, a little bit, be a little bit more specific. So that's my analysis. Any questions?
Any questions, Representative Toole?
You're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry, I guess I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Lynn. My main question here is, so the Supreme Law Court determined what it did back in 2017. Does that also give, since it's not specifically prohibited to have ranked choice at the municipal level, does that then give them the opportunity to do that regardless of anything that happens here?
No, it does not. The Constitution is silent, but the statute specifically states that they need to use plurality. So the statute prohibits it, except for those charter communities.
And how many charter communities are there? Do we have a general idea of that?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't recall if MMA, if there's an, let's see, MMA was neither for nor against, and I assume that Rebecca Graham may be in the waiting area for our next bill, or she may be in the waiting area for this one. We could bring her over and see what she knows.
Cheryl, why don't you bring her over?
Cheryl, is Mr. Brodigan here?
Bring him over as well.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Broderham. Good morning, Ms. Graham. Welcome. And Ms. Graham, can you speak to the issue about how many communities would be affected?
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. I was not here to speak on this, actually. I know that I have that information, and I was trying desperately to quickly find it, but I don't have it right now. I can, however, get that information too.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. Okay, Senator Claxton, you have a question?
Just a comment that the sponsor probably has that information.
Representative Barry, do you have that information?
Thank you. It's my understanding that Maine has 488 municipalities, and that of those, there are 431 non-charter communities.
So this would affect 431 communities so relatively small towns all over the state, really.
This would give those towns some latitude. Of course, the charter municipalities already have free reign, so this would open up some additional options for the rest of us.
Representative Reisman, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to note that in Seth Berry's testimony, he has a sentence that says non-charter municipalities, roughly 413, I think he got a transposition, 413 of 488 municipalities simply do not have this option, referring to ranked choice voting. So that is in the testimony.
Thank you, Representative Reisman.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Barry, why don't you, Representative Barry, if you could answer some of the questions that were raised by the analysts.
Thank you. And first, let me thank Representative Reisman for catching my typo. It was late last night, and I believe that I must have transposed the number, so it should be 431. And that was a number which I picked up in some other testimony, so it may be slightly off, but it's approximately correct. So the goal here was always to just give a little more flexibility to municipalities, and I think that with the help of the clerk and the League of Women Voters and others, what you have before you should do the job. I think what the clerk has suggested for some additional technical massaging, it sounds wise, but the purpose here, as indicated in my testimony last night, is just that, to provide some additional latitude. So I know this is not a public hearing, but Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlick, members of the committee, if you wish, I'm happy to deliver some additional and specific testimony. I think the League of Women Voters and John Brodigan is here representing them, is probably better suited than I am to answer some of the technical questions about methods of election. I certainly don't anticipate that any municipality would want to go with a minority choice, but I think if we want to put some additional parameters on it, we could certainly do that. So the goal here is, again, is just charter municipalities already have the freedom to determine how these secret election ballots proceed. We want to just open that up a bit for others.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bryan. Do you want to give us some of your feedback on the analyst report?
Yeah, thank you very much, Senator Baldacci. And I just will be brief. I do concur with the sponsor that the main purpose here is to provide the same kind of powers and authorities to the smaller municipalities that the charter municipalities already have with respect to the ability to choose a voting method. Just make four quick points. And the analyst memo is extremely helpful, and I really appreciate the work that went into that. One quick point is that in the analyst memo on page 2, under different methods, the memo lists ranked choice voting, approval voting, and proportional representation, which are all what would be different methods from what's at issue in a straight majority context. But the other really common approach is runoff elections. A runoff election where you take the top 2 finalists in the first round, and then they have a runoff several weeks later, such as what the city of Lewiston does in their mayoral races. So I would just add that to that list. Secondly, also on page 2 of the memo, this has already been touched on, but the other 2 sections of Title 30A that refer to plurality votes, 2555 and 2526, those were not included in the bill. My understanding is because they already have language that says unless otherwise provided by charter, so that the municipalities in those circumstances can make those changes by charter. That's not language that's found in section 2528, which is at issue here, and that's why this greater latitude is advisable here. Thirdly, the analyst points out that this language different method is maybe a little bit unusual. The different method for the election and the different method for resolving a tie. And that's a really good point. There are other places in Title 30A that do use that framework, however. Under 2523 subsection 4, this has to do with posting information about a warrant, and it directs the municipality to post information in a certain way unless the town has adopted a different method of notification. So this is kind of modeled on that. It gives a standard, but it says the town can adopt a different method. And we're pretty comfortable that this is a pretty common device to use in a situation like this. And then the fourth thing, I just would draw your attention to the written testimony from the League of Women Voters, actually written by Deborah McDonnell. It's in your file. And she really lays out a lot of detail about what the bill would and wouldn't do, and explains some information that would answer some of your questions. So I would just point to that as well. I would be happy to work with anybody on the committee, the sponsor, the analysts, MMA, the clerks, anybody, if it'd be valuable between now and another work session to, refine some of these points and clarify any of these comments today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bryan? In terms of a couple of the issues, I think that I agree with our analysts' issue about the other methods of election or whatever the language was as being too vague. Ultimate goal, like I think of this legislation, is to put uncharted municipalities on the same level as chartered, so that unchartered municipalities have the same ability to say how we're going to elect people as the chartered municipalities. Is that essentially correct, Representative Barry? That's essentially the goal.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. I would say for the limited purposes of secret ballot elections for municipal office, yes.
Why don't we just say, can we just say that in a statute, Lynn? They will, uncharted municipalities, they govern their elections in the same manner as any other municipalities?
I think that might be an option. It would take away the different methods. I mean, I think that might
It's
be
simpler.
a clean solution. I would just want to work
Right.
it through first.
Representative,
Thank you. My only hesitation there is, and I'm sure your analysts could come up with something, but the committee might want to consider that there are roughly 431 municipalities that are currently using a plurality method. So if they are then required to choose their method, there will be a great deal of uncertainty as going forward as to what method will be used. And it would certainly be my preference that we provide a very predictable approach here, and that all municipalities by default will continue to use the same method that they use now, unless they themselves, having considered it and with 180 days advance notice, so that, you know, candidates and election officials can prepare, unless they themselves choose a different path. So I think, you know, there is some utility in the law that we have now insofar as it provides clarity about the system that is used. And I would just be, you know, a little cautious about opening it up. I'm sure there's a way to do it, you know, with the help of your analyst and Mr. Brodigan.
so what are you suggesting, Representative Barry, specifically?
I think the way it's crafted now essentially provides, Senator, what you're looking for in so far as the municipalities, by adopting a different method, would be exercising the same authority that charter municipalities currently have. You know, the charter municipalities really can use whatever system they adopt at present. So you know, they have total latitude. This provides latitude as well, but it also provides a consistent default option, which is the plurality method used currently.
Okay, Mr. Branningham, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Senator Baldacci. I think this kind of is a tangential point, but it might be helpful. I know that there was some concern or question about different method not being specific enough. And it's conceivable that we could work on an amendment that would simply say something like different method, comma, including but not limited to, you know, runoff voting, ranked choice voting, approval voting, proportional representation. Something like that might clarify the menu that's available to municipalities, unless they just want to stick with what they have.
No, and I appreciate that. I one of my concerns that I also share with the analyst is that with 400 and something municipalities and leaving it say that they can come up with quote unquote a different method, even if we do the including but not limited to language, I mean, it means that they could come up with something that was completely off the wall. And so, and I understand that I just would like to get something that's simpler. I don't want it to cause a lot of confusion. And I want to be able to give the municipalities the right to hold an election like charter municipalities can. Just concerned by saying by different methods that we're all of a sudden going to sanction like a minority vote or something like that. I think that was one of our concerns, or some other off the wall procedure. But I mean, that's why if we could keep this thing relatively simple, I think it would be easier for everybody to embrace. What does the committee wish to do? Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I'll make a statement and then I'll prepare to make a motion. I mean, currently any municipality that doesn't have a charter can have a charter, and they can deviate any way they want to have their elections. So why are they burdening the legislature with statute when it's not necessary? And if there's no more discussion, I would make a motion of ought not to pass.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Just going to indicate that I'm going to oppose this motion, and that I would prefer that we give the sponsor and the analyst some additional time to kind of clarify this a little bit more, so that we can provide uncharted municipalities a path. But is there any other discussion regarding this motion? Representative Toole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a year ago, when we first heard this bill, it was a concept draft at the time. It was stated at the time that we just need the summer to work with municipalities and clerks, and we'd come back the start of the next session, we'd have a finished product, would be all ready to go. And yet here we are, the first week of February, and we're just getting language the day before. And I know that's not our analyst's fault. I want to be clear on that. And even the sponsor, I know things get busy in other committees, but you know, we've had a year to work this out, and here we are, people are still confused as to the intent and the meaning and the wording. I just think we're opening ourselves a can of worms here. And as Representative Greenwood said, you know, municipalities that are so inclined can adopt a charter and adopt a process. So that's why I'm voting not to pass.
Representative Copeland, you have your hand up.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really think that this is important to get people to vote however they vote. We're not saying one way or the other, but it's really important that people can vote and feel confident in their vote. And there's no way that I see that, you know, 431 non-chartered communities are going to have the wherewithal and the help and ability to come up with charters. So this is a simple way so that people can vote. They can choose how they vote, and it's up to them. This is not putting this on anyone. It is not a mandate. It is not putting costs on anyone. It is simply giving them the option, should they choose, to do it the way they want. I will be voting for this. I do agree that we need clarification of language. I don't like the open-ended piece, as Chair Baldacci was talking about. I think that we should say, you know, and maybe not say what it can be, but say that it can at least match what the charters do. So I think that's a way to keep it contained. So that would be my preference. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Copeland. Representative Matlack?
Thank you, sir. My small town actually does have a charter. It was something that was undertaken by the community several years ago, more than 10 years ago, probably more than 15 years ago. And it is an endeavor, and it is a cost that the town would have to bear in order to come up with a charter. So I think this relying on municipalities that have a charter, don't have a charter, to create one is a burden in and of itself. I also checked my municipality's charter, and they don't specifically have directions with regard to voting. They just talk about terms and when the voting will take place, but they could change the charter very easily. Other communities within my district don't have charters, and they are limited in the way that they may elect people. This would allow them to clarify without developing an expensive multi-year process to create, to find a way to better allow their residents to vote on local elections for select board, for example. So I'm in support of this, and I'm also in support of allowing folks, Representative Barry, perhaps Lynn Caswell and Mr. Brodigan, and maybe Ms. Graham, if she's interested in polishing this up just a little bit and taking into consideration the concerns that have been raised.
Thank you, Representative Matlack. Representative Reisman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one question or point, and then I'd like to, I'm going to make another motion to table this after I'm done. Section 2528 was mentioned by Mr. Brodigan, and it has to do with the secret ballot. And the secret ballot provisions say that a town's use of the secret ballot for the election of town officials or for municipal referenda elections. So I'm wondering if the clerk could perhaps check on how referendums come into play. So for example, if you had a referendum that said, we're going to spend $1,000 for this, and then there's another piece of that that says $500 and another one that says $0, it's possible that you could use ranked choice voting to determine the outcome of that referendum. And I want to know if that needs to be part of this or not. So the second thing is I would make a motion to table this motion that's on the floor.
Second? Let's see a second for that, Representative Reisman, but so if I could, if the sponsor or Mr. Brodigan or the analyst have 30-A MRS section 2555 in front of them, is that the section we're looking at to amend?
No, Representative Senator Baldacci, it's 2528. I actually have all three, including 2528. Are you looking for the section we're amending or the others?
The one that we're amending is it's 2528.
Yes, and I can share, I can try again to share my screen to show you the proposed amendment. Would that be helpful?
Or as long as we get a good screen share.
All right, I'll try. You can tell me to take it down if it doesn't work. So are you seeing a nice shot with yellow highlights?
Yes.
Okay, so this is section 2528, and the yellow is what the sponsor is proposing be added.
So couldn't it be, we're going to vote on the pending motion, obviously, but I'm just suggesting that if that does not succeed and we ask that it go back for further revisions, subsection 10, election must be by plurality vote. I'm just throwing in the mix that there could be a comma put there instead of a period, unless otherwise provided for in a town meeting or some sort of town meeting, unless the town adopts, unless otherwise provided for at a meeting held at least. I would take out the adopts a different method. I would say election must be by plurality vote unless otherwise provided for at a meeting held at least 180 days in advance of the annual meeting. But that's just my 2 cents in terms of trying to reduce the confusion, because once you introduce the idea of different methods, then I just think I think it causes a problem. However, I see Mr. Brodigan's hand is up.
I was only going to say that I think that's a very workable solution, what you just described. I think that But I would defer to the sponsor. But from my point of view, I think that is actually a good result.
Representative Barry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also would be fine with that approach. I think that's very elegant.
That's the first time I've ever been accused of that, but I just want to.
I apologize.
No, that's all right. I'll take it from wherever I can get it. I just want to try to make it simple and cause less confusion. But so we're going to call a roll on the ought not to pass. Cheryl?
All righty. LD 859 ought not to pass. Senator Joseph Baldacci. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Oh.
Senator. For some reason, we're not hearing you, Senator Baldacci. Oop. Oh, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha. Answer quick.
Okay. No.
Okay. Senator Joseph Baldacci, no. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton, absent. Representative Ann Matlack.
No.
Representative Ann Matlack, no. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant, absent.
He was having
Representative
technical difficulties.
Yeah. Representative, there's Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood. I'll be back with you, Senator Claxton. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head. There you go. Representative okay, Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Walter Reisman.
No.
Representative Walter Reisman, no. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
No.
Representative Lynn Copeland. LD 859 ought not to pass. Senator Ned Claxton.
No.
Senator Ned Claxton, no. 5 noes, 5 yeses, 3 absent.
So we're going to have to wait and see what the other three have to say. So.
Oh, no, 2 absent, sorry, because I just got Senator Claxton. I apologize.
The two that are absent, Representative Bryant, who's having
Representative Bryant and Representative Paulus.
Okay.
Does that mean the motion fails because it's a tie?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion fails because of a tie.
Representative Greenwood, you had your hand up.
Yeah, no, I was just questioning whether or not the vote would be held, and they had until noontime on Wednesday to vote, so we would get a determination.
That's what usually happens is you go 2 days until noon.
Why don't you tell us what the ruling should be as a parliamentarian?
So my understanding is because there are still 2 days for the vote, the final total, there isn't an answer on which is the majority and which is the minority report. That will be determined when all the votes are in. So what I think the question is the people who voted against ought not to pass. Well, what will your report be? Is yours an ought to pass as amended? That I work on new language with Representative Barry and others, and I bring it back?
Yes, I would want it to achieve the goal that we discussed, and that it be as clear, it be as non-confusing as possible.
So I'd suggest that I can work on this and bring it back perhaps on Wednesday, and you should have the final vote on Wednesday. And so you'll be able to determine which is the majority vote and which is the minority vote.
Yes. That seems to be the consensus of the committee. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Barry. You have your
Thank
hand.
you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the committee, and I do apologize, especially to Representative Toole, that my testimony wasn't posted until last night, and I think it was my responsibility that the amendment didn't get sent out sooner as well. I think last Thursday I had authorized it, but your analyst had prepared it sooner. Fortunately, the clerks were shared on it prior to that. The League of Women Voters has shopped it around, and I'm hopeful that this will be useful if it does pass in providing that little bit of parity to the non-charter municipalities. So thank you all very much, however you voted, for your attention to this issue.
Representative Barry, and our next work session, that work session is closed. This next work session is on LD 1513, an act to require the maintenance of a discontinued public road that provides the sole access to one or more residences. Cheryl, who do we have here for that bill?
I think it's Rebecca Graham.
Anybody else?
I have in the waiting room, I have Roberta Manter, Tom Doak, and Patty Dubois.
Okay, well, I would let them in if they want to come in on this issue.
And Patty scooted out, so I guess she's not speaking. So these are the two persons. Three persons. Three persons, yes.
Want to get started on your analysis?
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. So I did not provide a new analysis on this LD 1513. We discussed it at the last meeting. This was the subcommittee of discontinued roads proposed to the full committee that you report out a bill to create a commission on a permanent commission for discontinued and abandoned roads. And that committee at that time agreed, since this bill was substantially different than the original language in LD 1513, that you would have you did request a second public hearing, and the response was that you hold a work session and allow interested parties to comment to the committee on the idea of a abandoned discontinued roads commission. And so I believe today Rebecca Graham, Tom Doak, and Roberta Manter are here to provide feedback to the committee on that proposal of a commission.
Thank you. Representative Toole, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a note for Lynn. Point of clarity, do you have Roberta Manter's latest, her recommended amendment? That I just want to make sure that we have that, as I know it's going to probably be a focal point of discussion today. So yeah, that's my question.
So I did not draft up a second document based on the comments from Roberta Manter. I can walk the committee through them. I'm trying to pull up her testimony, and of course she's here so she can tell us, but no, I have not created a document for the, that
Okay,
I was
I
prepared to
was
share
just
with you.
checking, make sure we had it in case at some point it is incorporated into the discussion, because I know it is going to be a portion of her testimony, so.
So Ms. Manter, welcome. Do you want to give us the highlights of your feedback?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak. First of all, I should introduce myself. My name is Roberta Manter, and I'm the founder of Maine Roadways, Residents and Owners on Abandoned and Discontinued Ways. First of all, a huge thank you for proposing this commission. This is a dream come true, as it may finally allow enough time to sort out some of the issues regarding abandoned and discontinued roads. I've served on, I believe, 4 prior legislative groups of one sort or another, and none of them has had enough time to fully figure out what to do with this, because the problems are so complex. I do have a few concerns, however, about the bill as presented. First, a minor grammatical correction, which I detailed in additional testimony that I sent in just yesterday. The bill refers to abandoned and discontinued roads throughout. And while this is appropriate when referring to roads as a group, there are 4 places where the bill refers to a single road as abandoned and discontinued. And since the 2 processes are different, the road can't properly be both, so the word or should be used in those 4 places. And that's in the testimony that I put in yesterday, if you want to locate where those 4 places are. Second, and this is a major concern, is the lack of representation for residents on abandoned and discontinued roads. As currently worded, there's no guarantee that they will have any representation. It refers to a Maine resident who owns property on one of these roads, but not someone who actually lives on the road. I proposed an amendment in the testimony that I submitted on January 27th to correct that deficiency. Is there some way to increase representation for residents and landowners on these roads to balance the many other interests represented on the commission who do not have to deal with the condition of the road daily? We're here every day. We see what the problems are for loggers, farmers, hunters, people who want to use it for recreational uses. So we're aware of what their problems are, and we agree that they need to be taken into consideration too. But how much concern do other interests have for the resident who has to be there every day? I hope you've had a chance to read through all the new testimony that was submitted just in the last week in support of the amended bill, and I apologize for it being such short notice, but we didn't have much time to get the word out. I would call your attention in particular to testimony submitted just this morning by Andrew Cashman on behalf of the Maine Realtors Association, supporting the bill with my proposed amendment. And also testimony submitted by Andrew Allen on behalf of the Maine Alliance for Road Associations. He was hoping to speak this morning, but his car broke down and he's out meeting the tow truck, so I'm afraid he won't be available to speak. But he was requesting that another member be added to the commission to represent residents on private roads, which have, although they have some different issues, there's a lot of overlap. Confusion in terminology, problems because the road is not maintained by the public, leading to problems of emergency access, erosion into water bodies, destruction by ATVs. So there is a lot of overlap, and I think that his suggestion deserves consideration. My third major concern is time. My husband has been here on this road for 50 years. I've been here for 40. And in all that time, we just keep running up against the same problems of public use in the absence of public maintenance. And we still think this is an infringement on the Constitution. If you go back to Jordan versus Canton, the Maine Supreme Court determined that a public road with no public maintenance will inevitably be destroyed. And we see this happen over and over again. Even if there's compensation and due process when the road is originally abandoned or discontinued, that doesn't take into account what happens after that when the public is basically invited in to use the road any way they please. And even if it's just a little bit of damage, that adds up. So the road is repeatedly damaged or destroyed, and there is no compensation for that. Sadly, we've just learned that we lost another abandoned road resident from Millbridge just 10 days ago. This is the third main roadways friend that we've had die before this got resolved. And of course, this committee lost Representative Verot in 2019 and now Representative Dorr while we've been working on bills to try to solve this problem. We also know of residents or landowners in Liberty, Andover, Benton, Frenchville, Corinth, Stowe, and Fayette, at least, who have given up and sold their land or home on a discontinued road at a loss rather than to continue to put up with the problems. One thing I think could be done fairly quickly, although I'm not sure of the exact process, would be to ask the Maine Supreme Court for an opinion of the justices, similar to the opinion they gave regarding public plowing of private roads, which led to the whole Wyndham debacle, which I know you're familiar with. I would propose two questions to the justices. One, what did the court mean by the word unfettered in the case of Fayette versus Manter, footnote 1? That's been taken to mean that there are no restrictions on the road. It can be used for anything, ATVs, log skidders, whatever. But is that really what they meant by that word unfettered, or did they simply mean that the landowner or resident cannot gate the road to keep all of the public out? If you read the case, that was what was being argued, was whether or not someone could block the road. And if you look at that footnote 1, it refers to Title 23, Section 3021 as defining a private way as being the same thing as a public easement. But then if you go on to Section 3022, it specifically says that public easements are for access by foot or motor vehicle. And it gives the definition of motor vehicle, which specifically excludes ATVs and snowmobiles. So we don't see how the court could have intended the word unfettered to overturn Section 3022. And I think just asking for their opinion on that could clear up some of this abuse of the roads. And the second question to ask the justices would be, are public easements constitutional in light of Jordan versus Canton, which said that a public road with no public maintenance will inevitably be destroyed? There's neither due process nor just compensation for the ongoing and repeated destruction of property access that inevitably occurs on public easements. And even though there was a decision in Lamb versus the town of New Sharon, where the court said that abandonment was constitutional, they based that on the concept that anybody should be able to look at an abandoned road and tell that nothing's been done to it by the public in 30 years. And therefore, it's not really changing anything to say that the public is not going to maintain it because they haven't been maintaining it. So there's no due process or just compensation needed because there is no taking. But what that ignores is the fact that a public easement is then open to all public use. And as soon as the landowner fixes it so as to have access to his own property, then the public will say, oh, look, we can use that now. And they begin using it. And then you get the destruction of the road with no due process and no just compensation. And I think that's something that
Ms. Manter? Hi.
Yes.
Ms. Manter? Hi, I think that I think these are all very good questions. I think that these would be, in terms of submitting something to the law court, I think obviously that it would need to go through this commission, because that's an undertaking that has to be done with the Attorney General's office. But I think there are very good questions that will help illuminate the issues. I just want to see if and I appreciate your time, I just want to see if Mr. Doak wanted to make any comments about the direction that we're going in terms of this bill.
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. Senator Baldacci, representative members of the committee. I'm Tom Doak. I'm the executive director of Maine Wood Landowners, and I speak in favor of this commission. This is a step forward in a very difficult situation. I do want to thank the committee and the subcommittee that I had multiple chances to engage with the subcommittee that looked at this issue, and I very much appreciate that. I certainly was given very fair airtime, and so Representative Matlock and the members of the committee, that subcommittee, thank you for allowing me to speak throughout the fall. This issue is not going away. You've seen it before you many times in the last few years. It's not going to go away. I had 3 calls last week about this issue, and when the subcommittee, interestingly, when the subcommittee had the warden service on at their last meeting, the question was asked of the warden that works with landowners if he deals with this very often, and I think the answer was all the time. I believe that's what he said, all the time. So the big issues for us are what can you do on a public easement? I mean, what rights does the public have? That's one of the big things. And the other one is, what is the status of some of these old roads? A lot of the arguments around those two issues, to be frank. I know there's been reluctance for anybody to take responsibility for this commission. I understand that. This is not an easy issue. If it was an easy issue, it wouldn't be before you every session of the legislature. But to try to make it a little more palatable, I had a couple of ideas and suggestions just for the committee to consider, although I certainly support the bill as it's written, or the amendment as it's written. I had suggested you might want to put some kind of sunset provision. Sometimes people don't want to be involved in a forever endeavor, but if it had a time frame, maybe folks would find that a little more palatable to take some responsibility for it. If you did that, I would suggest a report back every year instead of every 2 years under as identified in the amendment. I think these are fundamentally road issues. I think DOT needs to play an important role. I'm not trying to throw DOT under the bus, but these are often road issues and very legal issues that require that kind of analysis. And then you could look for some creative ways to administer the commission, like you've done. An example is the right to know advisory committee and things like that, where you meet, I believe, the OPA staff helps in the off season from the legislative session. So those are just some thoughts that I had, but this issue is huge, and it's something I hear about all the time, and I would hope we can take some step forward with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doak. Representative Matlack, I know that you put a lot of time into this issue. Did you want to talk briefly on what's before us today?
Thank you, Senator Baldacci. Yes, this commission that we're suggesting is a result of the meetings that we had. Also, the meetings amongst the stakeholders, Ms. Graham, Mr. Doak, Ms. Manter, led by Lynn Caswell, to grapple with this issue that, as everybody says, comes up regularly before this committee. We are suggesting the commission, we're recommending this commission be set up in order to address these issues in an ongoing manner. It may be that eventually we don't need to have this commission meet regularly if we can resolve some of these issues, or at least figure out a path for them to be addressed on a regular basis. But for now, the recommendation of the committee, of the subcommittee, was that we create this commission. I agreed with Ms. Manter about the two changes that she suggests, amendments to the commission, specifically the description of one of the representatives, and also for the other language description that she suggested. Regrettably, we did get great feedback in our last meeting that we had, because this is an issue elsewhere. This is an issue with inland fisheries. This is an issue with, and I always forget what the other agency is, but yes, I'm sorry, Representative Copeland?
Agriculture.
That's it, agriculture. And they actually just, agriculture, I believe, actually specifically does deal with these issues on a regular basis, and has a system for discussing these issues with landowners and snowmobile groups and so forth. So there are things in place, but I think it's broader than that. And this commission would include agencies that already discuss these issues, but also include agencies like the Attorney General and, as Mr. Doak suggested, perhaps the Department of Transportation, because these are roads. So I would love to see this commission set up. We need to find it a home, as it were. But other than that, I think it's an issue that needs to be dealt with on an ongoing basis for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. And Representative Tool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would concur with Representative Matlack. I think Ms. Manter has brought some good suggestions forward in her proposed amendment, and her grammatical changes there. I would certainly be supportive of those. I also think, and I know we haven't heard from Ms. Graham yet, but I also think we do need to find a home, and if, as the two departments don't seem as though they would like to take it on, or at least the commissioners have not signed off on that, I wouldn't have a problem proposing that the Attorney General take it on. If folks are amenable to that, or even with the other two. If we are the legislature, we're the committee, we can, I hate to do it, but sometimes we have to direct departments what they should be doing. And this is one of those rare times where an issue isn't going away, and I have no problem telling them that they have to do it. And that will probably be the only time in my 8 years here you will ever hear me saying that, but I firmly believe it's something that needs to be done. So if folks, I think we should agree on a home and go from there.
Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to say that what Representative Toole just said is what I have been thinking all along. It's like, okay, well, with the legislature, and maybe it includes a fiscal note because they need more support staff. I'm not saying that we should work people to death. I'm saying that it's something that is very worthwhile for all parties involved to make this commission go forward. And I also want to concur with Representative Matlack's comments. There was only one thing, well, there were a couple of notes that I made. I think it's very important to have people who reside on such roads to have a voice, and that I think that is, a mandatory. I know that we have to have odd number of people or whatever, so whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, whatever. I don't think that this is the right committee to add the private road people in. I think we've got enough to chew on here. I think that just dilutes the waters and makes it, it'll never come to a consensus. We have to have them in as well. Certainly they can watch. I just don't think that they should be a required member or an allowed member even. And I'm sorry that I don't agree with the sunsetting on this. This did not happen overnight. This has been boiling and boiling for years and years. I've heard about this long before I ever heard, before I had an idea to be in the legislature. This is a big issue, and setting a sunset is, I think this is going to take some time. There's going to be lots of individual situations, and I think it's going to take some time. And I don't know what our analyst thinks, but I like the idea of OPLA off session, but I don't know what the work that you do when things aren't crazy. I'm sure you're still doing some stuff, but I like to keep that in the mix if that's a possibility. Those are my thoughts.
Lynn, did you want to respond to any of those?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back and say, with respect to Ms. Manter's comments, particularly the language about property owners along discontinued and abandoned roads. I think it was the subcommittees. It was always their intent that it was going to be residents. So that was a drafting error. And also, I have looked at her comments on abandoned and discontinued, and there are situations in the bill where it should say discontinued or. So both of those comments are, I should have mentioned this when Representative Toole gave me an opportunity at the beginning, but both of those make sense and reflect, I think, what the committee intended. Respect to Representative Copeland's comment, there are, like the Right to Know Advisory Committee, set up with OPLA staff. The work when OPLA staffs a commission, the commission can only do its activities during interims. OPLA staff are not assigned to commissions during when the legislature is in session. So that would be the only, I think, relevant information I think you need to factor in, would be that during session, the commission would not be staffed, but there are commissions that do have OPLA as a staff. And related to that, if OPLA is assigned to staff, then this commission, I believe, might end up on the study commission table. My understanding is anytime a bill requires action by the legislature, then it goes to the study table. So I think if you added OPLA staffing, it would go to the study table, just another hoop that this bill would need to work through.
Representative Tool. You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. That is a great point about the OPLA staffing. In addition to it going to the study table, if the commission's going to review proposed legislation, that will be difficult if the legislature is in session. So I would prefer it go to one of the agencies. And I also agree with Representative Copeland about the private roads and about the sunset. I wanted to be a little more specific there. I think she made great points, and I would be fine with dropping those from any, or not putting those into the bill going forward, I should say.
Representative Matlack, did you want to make a motion?
Certainly. I would make a motion of ought to pass as amended, including Ms. Manter's amendments to this bill. Hopefully we can find a way to do this, and perhaps this off-season the recommendation that that OPLA handle this commission in the downtime is a good suggestion. So I will say ought to pass as amended.
I second that motion.
Is a fiscal note probably attached to that too? Would there be a fiscal note, Lynn?
I would need a bit more information on the amendment. Two things on the amendment, and also if you're leaving in, so the draft has in both agencies, IF&W and the Department of Ag, Conservation and Forestry, and I believe Maine Department of Transportation. So if you're leaving those in, there may be a fiscal note. That's my first question. We're leaving those in. Second question was clarity on the staffing. So fiscal note if the department's staff is likely. I don't know if there's a fiscal note if I staff. That's my job. So I don't think there'll be a fiscal note, but I can't comment on that.
Okay, thank you. So ought to pass as amended.
Would you be open to this suggestion that they report back annually instead of biannually?
Annually, yes.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have and we have a second? Any further discussion about the pending motion? See, Senator Claxton. And
I
Senator
apologize.
Claxton, you were off and on, but in terms of the video, but I wanted to also recognize you for your work on the roads commission. Thank you. It's a public service important to many.
I'd like to say it was my pleasure, but I did enjoy working with the members of the committee, subcommittee. I'm sorry, I had to jump back and forth between this and another committee meeting.
Yeah.
Was the idea of a letter to the Supreme Court Superior Court asking for an opinion, was that included in the motion, or is that a separate issue?
I really think needs to be discussed by the commission that we're setting up and not done ad hoc.
Okay.
Because that's a whole legal case we'd be opening up. So I think
Very
that
good.
needs to be considered as part of this commission's work.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion. Lynn? You have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion, as I understand it, is to change the word and to or in certain situations, to clarify that the one of the members is a resident on an abandoned or discontinued road, and to have the report back annually. Are there other amendments that I should note?
Representative Tool?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Matlack had put out that part of the motion was for OPLA to staff. I will support that. I'm afraid that it will get stuck somewhere and the follow through may not happen. I'll support it, but I gotta say, I'd feel much better if we had the Attorney General or pick another agency to do it and just bite the proverbial bullet and do that. But
So Representative Tool, I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt, but Representative Matlack, was that part of your amendment? The OPLA part?
Yes. It seemed to
I
resolve
understand.
a number of issues that we had.
Okay. Representative Tool, did you have other concerns that you wanted to state?
oh, no, I want to be clear, I'll be supporting it.
Okay. Okay. So Cheryl, could you call the roll?
Yes. LD 1513 ought to pass as amended. Senator Joseph Baldacci.
Yes.
Senator Joseph Baldacci, yes. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton.
Yes.
Senator Ned Claxton, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Representative William Tool.
Yes.
Representative William Tool, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 11 yes, 1 absent.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Representative Bryant was not with us on the last LD.
Right.
Cheryl, and I don't know if anybody else missed the last LD, but if you could record his vote now. Is that okay, Representative Bryant?
Yes.
Could you tell me what the vote, I understand what the bill is. Could you tell me who voted and what the tally is at this point, please?
I will, yes. LD 859. The motion was ought not to pass. Those who voted ought not to pass were Senator Rosen, Representative Tool, Representative Greenwood, Representative Head, and Representative Downs. Those who voted ought to pass as amended were Senator Baldacci, Senator Claxton, Representative Matlack, Representative Reisman, and Representative Copeland. You and Representative Paulus were absent.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I do apologize. I kept coming in and out and couldn't get back on. And finally, I'm here now. So appreciate that and do apologize. But I will be voting opposed to the motion. The motion was ought not to pass. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll be voting opposed to the motion. I'll be voting ought to pass.
As amended?
Whatever the motion is, yes, as amended.
Okay. So Representative Mark Bryant, no on ought not to pass. Yes on ought to pass as amended.
Lynn, address today?
Yes, I think we have handled all the business for today.
Okay,
you
Senator
want-
Baldacci, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why. But I guess that's why we need broadband. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Stay, everyone. Thank you very much.
See
Thank you.
everybody Wednesday.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
see you Wednesday.
Bye now.
Take care.